Hey everybody, welcome back to our channels. I'm Makayla and I'm with Adrienne and Mila again, and we're back for the Triple Moon Goddess lunar experience. Today we're talking about the new moon in Cancer that is happening on July 17th, tomorrow. It's actually happening on Monday on the Moon's Day, which is pretty cool. And the new moon is in its rulership or its infinity in the Cancer archetype, so that's pretty cool. And there's like a lot of stuff. We've been chatting for a little bit before we started recording, actually for a long time. And there's a lot of transits coming up. The nodes are going to shift shortly after this new moon takes place, but predominantly we wanted to talk about what this new moon is bringing up for everybody. And yeah, do you guys just want to say hi and welcome?
Sure. So I'll go then. So I'm really happy for us to get together again. I really miss this. I really enjoy this. This is my highlight of every 2 weeks. And I'm really happy to be back and talk about new moon in Cancer because as also you, Makayla, I know we have moon in Cancer ourselves. So I think this is a very interesting for us. And we are all moon in water signs here. So we're all going to be impacted. So we are very sensitive to the moon, and I think this is a very special to talk about because of everything else that's going on in the sky at the moment.
I also am very happy to be here. I'm glad that we've all gotten back together again. And yeah, I feel like this moon is very, very powerful. It's, the reset of an energy just as the nodes shift within a couple of hours, I think. After this new moon happens, the nodes are going to shift and really accentuate this new energy that's coming up for us.
Yep. All right, so I'll share the chart so we can have our listeners look at what's going on, of course. And you ladies can see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, I just want to say, like, if anybody has predominant cardinal placements, so if they've got Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra, this new moon is going to be either conjunct or squaring or opposite your placements or your angles, if you have any of those strong in your chart. And I think maybe, if it's okay, I just open up with the fact that this new moon is opposite Pluto. I think that is like a major factor of what's going on. A major undertone is, as we understand new moons, they are a seed being planted, and it's something that's happening in the dark that you don't necessarily see its manifestation yet, but it's almost this like tingling psychic awareness that something is happening, something is going to blossom or bloom or come about, right, from a new moon. But again, it's in that darkness, and there's this like extra element of that because it's opposite Pluto and Capricorn retrograde, which is a big deal because we're finishing up our Capricorn cycle. Pluto at 29 degrees at the very end of Capricorn, but retrograde. It's like what we talked about a little bit earlier before we came on, so we'll catch up our listeners. We're picking up pieces of our storylines that still need to be transformed. And to me, it was like this new moon in Cancer really feels like there's this deep psychic knowing. And I'm getting this psychic intuition because Cancer archetype is psychic in itself. All the water signs have that element to them, where there's this deep inner knowing that something is going to bloom or change or go in a new direction, but maybe you can't exactly pinpoint it yet. Right? It's like, but Pluto is at 29 Capricorn, and it's still digging up something that's deeply rooted and like structural within our psyche or within our soul. And it's almost like this new moon is going to pick that up. It's going to pick up that energy. What do you guys?
I definitely think so. And also that the nodes will, within a couple of hours of this, be also at 29 degrees in Aries and Libra. And really what we're having here is this grand cardinal cross, which is the energy of something new coming. And so it's not birthed yet. It's coming, and we can all feel it. It feels kind of tingling in my body, like something is coming. I don't know what it is. It's not like a frightening thing, but I mean, who knows what it is, but it's there. And it's been working for a long time, which is why I think that we're at the 29 degrees Capricorn. We're going back to get something that we've picked up from the way that our society has conditioned us, and we're getting ready to incorporate that into this new moon so that change can happen.
Absolutely. And I actually want to pick up on that I invite everybody to look back at what we just were discussing shortly before started recording, to the new moon in Aries that took place on 20th, I believe it was 20th of March, which was just before Pluto moved into the sign of Aquarius for his tiny little stint of 3 months. And at the time we had Mars moving into the sign of Cancer just after he spent like 6 months in Gemini for a longest time. And now actually this new moon is happening in Cancer, so I can definitely see significance. And just again to remind the listeners, we had 2 new moons in Aries, and the first one was 0 degrees. The second one was actually the first eclipse of this year, which was the solar eclipse, and it was on 29 degrees. And this is very important because I remember us talking about this, where we were saying about this new thing wanting to be birthed, but it's not ready to come through yet. And all these things that happened in the meanwhile, and actually prior to this new moon, we had 2 planets changing sign, and it was Mars changing from Leo into Virgo, and also Mercury changing from Cancer into Leo. And right after these 2 planets change signs, they actually made aspects to the nodes. First, it was Mercury making a square, so it was in opposition with Pluto, and then it was Mars making a trine, positive aspect to the nodes. So again, we get in all these breadcrumbs from the universe telling us that there is a pivotal time in our human evolution when things are just about to change. And also because all these aspects to the nodes were happening on 0 degrees, because even this moon actually being in opposition with Pluto, it's squaring the nodes. It's out of sign square, but still is happening because the node is like literally just hanging on for dear life on the last minute of Taurus. And this again is very important because the resolution is the North Node. So I feel that what have we learned in this past 18 months about ourselves, that this potentially would give us an idea about what is no longer part of us, Cancer, our identity, our roots. Like, yes, we came from here, but it doesn't mean it has to define my life, for the rest of it. So I feel this was a very important transit of the nodes going through the sign of Taurus and Scorpio, that we had the opportunity to understand ourselves, our needs, desires, our sense of self-worth and self-love better. And now Venus is in a sign of Leo, so she's ready to go. She's ready to go and follow her destiny and be treated like a queen. But there is this retrograde coming up on the 23rd, same day as Chiron is going to go retrograde. So I really feel that this new moon, it really is a seeding of a huge change, because it's a cardinal sign and is the ancestor line, it's our identity, it's our families, it's literally where did we come from, and is this still who we are? And is this actually maybe this loyalty to the past, is this preventing us from going ahead because of the square to Chiron? So I leave it at that, guys. I don't want to take over the entire thing, but I just want to say this is a very, very pivotal time in our history, and this new moon is really the beginning of the change.
This new moon is also forming a sextile to Uranus, right? And so to me, there's so much outer planet work that's going on behind this new moon. So to me, it amplifies this like eruption, but it's like a silent eruption within the soul. And like Uranus is going to stimulate it. And because it's a sextile, it's like an easier aspect, right? We don't always notice the sextiles or the trines because, again, they just come fluidly, right? They come easier. So we can miss those opportunities when we have them in our natal chart by transit, because it's just like there for us. But I feel like if we tap in and tune in to this like emotional realm and just kind of create some silence under this new moon, respectfully, a new moon would want you to have a little bit of silence anyway. It's almost like this Uranian impulse or this Uranian breakthrough can come in, like this outer layer, this deeper knowing can just erupt you on that soul level and help you that new identity, right? And it could be like the slightest insight or the slightest change And because Uranus is like coinciding and it's responding because it's in a Venus ruled sign, right? So it's responding to what Venus wants to do. And Venus is supporting us all on that creative desire, right? Being in Leo, creative potential and our creative purpose. But the big, it's not a, I don't want to say it's a red flag, but the big thing I want to amplify, at least in my practice, is like the fact that Venus is going to be retrograde. And so you're shifting, right? Your values are shifting, who you want to align with is shifting, like how you feel about things, like the feeling nature, how you feel about things is shifting. And it's very much connected to your heart center. And so like a lot of people are having these shifts in their relationships or their creative purpose or like what they're doing, right? And on a very like mundane level, right? We know I've been painting my apartment, right? Well, when I first bought my paint, I chose the wrong color, right? By accident. And I had to go back to Home Depot and get all new paint because I bought the wrong paint the first time. And then I had this whole mishap with this new furniture that I bought, right? And it's just like any retrograde, but this is now it's in the Venus archetype. So it has to do with like the beautification of things or relationship dynamics and stuff. So I just want to say that like this new moon, like you might have this subtle change or shift within yourself, but it might change again because Venus is going to go retrograde. We're going to have the node switch. We're going to have that Venus star point in Leo coming up next month. And then Venus goes direct. And so you'll shift again. And so I would like encourage people to, I guess, be open to that shift because Uranus forming that sextile and because Uranus does all this unexpected stuff to us in our charts, I would almost like want to say that like just be ready for a couple of changes when it comes to like formulating your new identity. It's like not permanent. It doesn't feel permanent to me, at least.
Yeah, and also because of the inconjunctions, we are familiar with this point because we had Mars having in conjunction with Pluto and Neptune last time we spoke about lunations, me and Adrienne, but actually this time is Venus in the same position. She's having in conjunction with both Neptune and Pluto, which is exactly saying, and what you were saying, Makayla, it's like you don't quite know. There are these blind spots you don't exactly know because there is this 29 degrees Pluto retrograde, which is saying, well, there's still something that needs to be resolved from the past so we can actually define who we truly are. This Neptune is also in retrograde. Saturn is the ruler of Pluto. Everybody is retrograde. All these guys that are communicating with each other, they all retrograde. They're saying that there is this kind of going over the past and kind of like thinking like, okay, is this what I still want? Is this what makes me feel safe and secure? Is this what gives me a sense of meaning? And this is an in conjunction. And then Venus, like literally between 1 week time, she's still in her shadow. I think she's already in her shadow, right? She's going to turn retrograde. So it's exactly what you said. I might think I know what is my purpose and how do I want to creatively self-actualize, but actually there are these in conjunction which are saying, but do you really? Because there might be something cloudy in your judgment from the past, and Neptune is trining this new moon. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then also with the Saturn and Pisces, I mean, I just look at it like this, the outer planets are making everything so nebulous, like anything could happen at this point. Like it feels like the veil is very thin to me, like, oh, what is it that you want to happen? You know, here's where Venus is. What does your heart say? And, you know, Venus is going to go back over. We're going to re-look at some things, but, you know, Uranus is like, change is happening. The universe is so, yeah. How do you want to make your life look where, you know, we're about to take a new direction and we're going to have a lot more control over our own what we want to happen as opposed to how it's been placed for us on the outside. I feel like that's a lot of where this new moon is coming from. We're seeding that. We've been dealing with getting our own needs met and focusing on what those needs are as opposed to what's been on the outside for a while now. And I feel like as first Mars went through Leo and now Venus is coming up behind it, that we are really gaining this information about what's for us. What is it that we really want? What are our desires? And now Mars moving into Virgo is like, okay, well, we've done that. We've looked at that. Now, what adjustments, like what of that information that has been collected are we going to keep, and what's going to be thrown out? And I just feel like big shifting is about to happen, and we get to choose.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, you know, too, like you bringing up the Mars, which is, and it's tying into like what Mila said earlier too, about look at the breadcrumbs from what happened with the new moon in Aries, and then also that eclipse that happened at 29 Aries, because that's very interesting, right? We had in the same month, we had a new moon at the beginning of Aries, and we had an eclipse at the end of Aries, and now the nodes are going to shift there. But hold on, let's backtrack. Mars has already walked that path. And so, and in essence, Mars is our instinctual planet, and it is like, as Simon teaches us, the leading edge of the soul's desire. So Mars is kind of instinctually doing its thing, reckless or not. It's just like plummeting through the signs and creating changes and making a pathway for us. And then we pick up those pieces as the other planets go through and trail behind it. And so Mars is like way ahead of the game if you think about it in Virgo. And if we like really pay attention to like maybe what Mars is doing, we can get some of those insights deeper into really what is correct for us, right? Because Mars is going to be instinctually acting on the soul level in our chart, right? And so if we pay attention to like what is Mars doing, and then we're kind of picking up those pieces, like you guys said, we might have a clearer direction or a clearer path to walk.
You know what, I really want to mention, and I don't want to jump too much ahead because this is about the retrogrades, but just to help people understand, Venus until this point was the ruler of the North Node. Mars is kind of the traditional ruler of the South Node, but we're working more with Pluto here. Still, you know, we need to acknowledge Mars was the traditional ruler of Scorpio, and it still is. However, as we know, when the node shifts, like literally within 2 hours, as Adrienne said, after this new moon in Cancer, it's seeded. We're going to have them switch in position. So Venus will become the rule of the South, Mars the rule of the North. But what I really want to bring to everybody's attention is when Venus and Chiron turns retrograde on the same day, Venus is the rule of the South Node in Libra at the time already, and Mars will be the rule of Chiron, because Chiron is in Aries. So I really feel, because to my like, I mean, we always have the finger of God, the two in conjunction, which currently are pointing to Venus in Leo. But to me, our conscious mind is pointing with Mars. You know, Mars is like the arrow and is pointing to Virgo. So when these two planets go retrograde, well, planets, I mean, Chiron is asteroid, but it plays a huge role because Chiron is in and has been in Aries since 2018-19 because he had retrograde, and he's going to be there until 2026. And I feel that literally there is this huge collective shifting happening where we have to give ourselves a permission to go in this new direction without feeling we are betraying our ancestor line or betraying the old ego identities that we were identified with ourselves. So when Venus goes retrograde and Chiron goes retrograde, and Venus being the ruler of the South and Mars being the ruler of the North Node, this will be an opportunity for us to really go over, is this really what we want? You know, with the Mars in Virgo, it's about learning, adjusting, fluidity, flexibility, like gather information, discern, and then make a choice, new choice. Like, as we said, new choice under all circumstances. Venus in Leo, and now Mercury is in Leo, and eventually on 27th, I believe, Venus and Mercury are going to conjunct before Mercury shifts into Virgo. Mercury is very busy this month. It's going through 2 signs. And this is very important to mention again, because Leo represents, there is a duality. I mean, there is duality to every sign, but Leo can be narcissistic because of the past trauma, but it can be also generous, and it's our connection to our inner child, therefore our higher self and our heart. So I feel Mercury now transiting through the sign of Leo is giving us opportunity to bridge two, you know, to understand, is this coming from your heart, or is this coming from your ego self, from I need to be right at any cost? And when them two going to meet up while Venus is in retrograde, this will be an opportunity for us to discover, did I make the choices because this is what my heart is telling me, or because I have a attachment, my ego wants to achieve this because, I don't know, because of prestige, fame, money, whatever. So I feel that, you know, while Mars will be the rule of Chiron retrograde and Venus will have the conjunction with Mercury, Venus retrograde, perhaps this will be the opportunity when we might get, you know, the downloads that might help us to understand what is actually going on behind the scenes right now, which is, as you, Makayla, mentioned, is very nebulous. It's very unclear because also new moon has no light. Things are not what they seem because we don't know. So maybe we will know soon.
Yeah, to help to try to figure out what that energy was, I went and looked at the nodes of Mars and Venus because they are again prominent in the chart. And so the south node of Venus is in Virgo, where we have been in the past like critical of ourselves, critical of other people. We've been guided from outside of ourselves. As we just in general, when we're talking about Pluto being through Capricorn, this is where we're looking at where our authority has been put outside of us. And so as we get ready to step into a place where we're taking our own authority into our own hands, this south node of Venus is saying, oh, well, we've been critical of ourselves, we've been critical of other people, and that this comes from being socially guided, essentially. And so Venus is coming in from there, where what I want to add to that is that Venus, because we've been guided sort of through the social norms, we have not put our own needs at the forefront. And so now that's the backdrop for Venus. Now Venus is in Leo, where we're really focusing on the needs that are coming from the heart, where we're grabbing a hold of that. And then the future of Venus is into Cancer. The North Node moves into Cancer, or is in Cancer. And this is where we are aligning that sense of value with who we are. We're moving from this outer place through the heart to ourselves, essentially. So that's part of the energy that's in this shift as these nodes begin to shift. And then as far as Mars goes, the south node of Mars is in Libra, again, aligning with what I was saying about with the south node in of Venus being in Virgo. This is the same thing. Our actions have been focused on the other for the past and on the collective, and where we've really been trying to find a balance, you know, between self and other, but it's been a default toward the other. You know, we've had issues with codependency and people pleasing, and this has been going on for a long time, to where it's difficult for us to shift into our own. I mean, we don't really know how to do it, and we've been told that it's not good to think about yourself. And so as the transiting Mars comes into Virgo, now we're like having to pick that apart. What parts of our actions do we want to keep that are for us, that our soul desires are wanting? And then in the future, Mars wants to, oh, I didn't even write it down, is, oh, I did not write it down. Oh, it's in Gemini. I did write it down. So the future is we're going to be gathering more information, because as these shifts happen, as we move into Aries, it's all going to be new. We're going to need to gather information about this new shift so that we can incorporate more into ourselves through the future. So this is how I see we're coming into this place where we don't really know, and we've come from a place where we've been guided outside of ourselves, and we're moving to this self-focused direction, and where it's all very unclear as to where we're going. You can look at the nodes and see from by the arc that they're making, you can kind of see the direction that we're headed and why we're headed in that direction.
This is so interesting, because actually what just came to me was that before Mars will move into Libra, which I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, but I think it's at the end of August, it will make a trine to Pluto. So I think this is very interesting because actually at the same time, it will make in conjunction to North Node ruled by Mars, which is saying exactly this. We don't know what it is, but we kind of get in a feeling what it isn't because we just had 15 years of Pluto through Capricorn. So we know what doesn't work. But with this Mars becoming the ruler of the North Node, a couple of hours after this new moon, this is very significant because Mars being in Virgo as a ruler, while this process is happening, it's saying we need to discern, we need to learn, we need to get all these new tools because to become my own leader, you know, Aries, like to go instinctual, follow this call of destiny, I need to know how. And between Aries and Virgo, there is the natural in conjunction where it's like, I don't feel competent. So what we gonna do? Well, we have to find out. We need to learn. So I feel this 18 months that we have until January 11th, 2025, when the nodes are going to shift again, we have the opportunity to find out because this new energy is being seeded now during this new moon in Cancer, which is saying, well, you can be whoever you want to be, you know, like there might have been a case of mistaken identity. We identify ourselves as something that was projected onto us, but now we have the opportunity to shift it because by this point, I feel from my experience with my friends and clients I'm coming across, a lot of people are very aware of this Pluto on 29 degrees of Capricorn retrograde, and they know what no longer works for them because they have a better understanding after 15 years of Pluto in Capricorn who they are becoming. And that's why I feel with this Mars becoming the rule of the North Node, and as I said, like before it shifts into Libra, where it will conjunct South Node, interestingly, which is exactly what we were talking about. The rule of the North Node will conjunct South Node. We will have the opportunity to make a new choice under all circumstances.
Yep. Yep.
The talk about all the nodal placements of Mars and Venus, like I would love to collaborate with you guys on a different video where we could talk about this because to me it evoked this feminine principle, and we all have masculine and feminine within us. We know this and want to encourage like all people, men or women, you have both.
Yes.
This is like a very silent eruption to me of like this feminine archetype coming through. And
Yes.
also like this other eruption within our soul and our psyche, and like you guys just said, like you can't hide it, and it's almost like this new moon, you feel it and you know that something is going to change. And it's really interesting that this new moon, and I was asking myself this morning when I was looking at the chart before we met, I'm like, why aren't the nodes in Aries and Libra yet? Like, why is this new moon happening opposite Pluto, but the nodes are at zero? Look at 0 degrees, 0 minutes, right? I'm like, why? Because it's this silent just change, and it's like and I don't want to scare people. Like, I don't want you to be like, oh my God, what the hell does she mean? Like, but you can't ignore the fact that something is there, right? Like something is there, whether it's big or small. There's this shift that's happening again. Like we haven't had the nodes in this placement in 19 years ago, right? And so we talked about this before we started the video, but it's like, what were you doing 19 years ago? Because there's going to be some themes coming up again that are related to that can give you a little bit more of clarification of like maybe what's going on in your own personal life. But with Pluto not coming back to Capricorn after it's done, right? Pluto retrograde at 29 degrees Capricorn, like it is there for a reason. It is cleaning up some stuff left in that sign, in that archetype, in that area of your life. You've got this new moon opposite that Pluto, like squaring these nodes, you know, it's an out of sign square, but squaring these nodes, and then the nodes are shifting a few hours after that. Like there is something that like just can't be ignored. And it's almost like the universe wants to help you. Like it's not trying to hurt you in any way, but it's giving you, it's almost like it's giving you a silent nudge or an inkling.
And I feel that I know why this new moon is happening before the nodal shift, because there is something of the past that is holding us back, because we might have all this knowledge, we might have all this understanding, but how many people really apply it into their life? You know, we might know what we need, we might know what we want. I mean, whether we be clear about it or not, but how many people had the opportunity to actually actualize it, you know, to put it into action, which is why, you know, Pluto is on 29 degrees, and this is all happening on these karmic degrees, 0 degrees, 29 degrees. And also, you know, to me, it's interesting that, you know, this, well, actually, Pluto will have one more retrograde very briefly next year into Capricorn, but it will be again only on 29 degrees. It's not going to move
Back
further
on
than
my
that.
son.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
just actually wanted to tell people that, you know, just so they can look into their life and go back down memory lane. The last time Aries was in North Node was from December 2004 until January 2006. So these are the 19 years ago what we're talking about. So people can retrospect and actually really identify, like, okay, what was going on for me between December 2004 and June 2006. And we all discussed this, so we know exactly what it was for us. And many people might come across with like something very pivotal that happened in their life that changed their life for these last 20 years, and then something similar might take place again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, I think that there's something that needs to be integrated from this past. There's something really important that is Capricorn, 29 degrees Capricorn. It is just related to the something that we're still holding on to, some of the structure that we have not actually let go of. And I'm wondering, because it's in opposition to this new moon, if it's not actually going to be integrated, that there's just a little piece of something that's going to come through before it actually shifts. Like, we won't be leaving it all behind. A piece of it will come through. Something we're holding on to will move forward with this shift, and likely, you know, cause havoc in our future. Or not. I mean, maybe it's something that's necessary, that, you know, I think part of Pluto and Capricorn is to, you know, transmute things that are no longer structures and systems that are no longer useful for us. But it's not like everything's going to be wiped away. Some things are going to have to come along. And I think that this revisiting is a chance for us to integrate into this new sense of self that's beginning tomorrow, that will have to come along with us.
And it feels like it's important, I think, that people have a safe space to talk about this energy with somebody or a place or a therapist or best friend or whatever, right? Like, have a safe place to kind of discuss what's erupting for you, because when the nodes shift into Aries and Libra, you know, here I see the importance of our relationship dynamics. It is on a relationship axis. And for so many reasons why it's the node shifting is going to be so relational to how we are with our personal relationships and groups and people, because there would be sextile to Aquarius and stuff, a trine to Aquarius. And it's like, how you're feeling and relating to yourself is directly going to affect now the new way that you're going forward in your life and the new directions that Aries North Node is going to want to push you and pull you into. But it's really important that we are so self-aware within ourselves, right? Because that way we can better integrate ourselves into our relationships with everybody else, right? And so if you've got like all this residual stuff still, and we're human, so it's okay that we do, because we nobody's perfect. You're always going to have something that's residual within you that needs some work or, you know, deconditioning, if you will. But it's like that Pluto retrograde in Capricorn is and one of you guys said it earlier before we hopped on the call, where it's like you still got to work through some inner workings, like deconditioning of like some of the psyche stuff that's still within you. And, you know, Pluto being in that Capricorn, it's like stuff gets crystallized in Capricorn, you know, it gets imprinted in you in Capricorn. And Pluto is still here trying to like dig up some of that and kind of rework the ground, if you will. And so is this new moon to me like super solid? It doesn't really feel solid. It seems more psychically in tune. See, it feels more feeling and emotionally, psychically oriented, kind of a new moon. And I feel like if like somebody's trying to manifest under this, like be really fluid, because it doesn't feel like anything is permanent right away. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I
Sense.
agree. I think that Saturn and Neptune and Pisces are adding to that feeling, like it's
Yeah.
all, it's very unclear as
Yeah.
to yeah, it just says to me, you just kind of got to go with the flow. Don't put up any walls yet. I mean, because people might experience fear during these times, you know, because things are changing and change brings, you know, an uncomfortability. But
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier, I don't think the changes as they may manifest at first are going to be permanent. Things are really flowing. It's the edges are not clear. I always talk about Pisces when I was first learning about Pisces, like when you drop a penny into a swimming pool and you try to see that penny, it's like you can't even tell that it's a penny. It's just moving, and like everything is like that. We don't know how it's all going to crystallize again, but it will. We're completing one crystallization and getting ready to begin a new cycle of a whole new crystallization that will, you know, happen for however many hundreds of years. I don't know.
I actually have
Long
some breadcrumbs that I would like to share, like piggyback on what Makayla said about this. There is an aspect of this old cycle that has to come with us, and then I think it's with this Pluto square with the resolution South Node, it's like the shadow aspect of ourselves. With this Mars being in Virgo, becoming the ruler of North Node, there is an insecurity because we don't know how, but there is also this conditioning of the past where we feel inferior. We feel like, oh, I don't know anything. What can I do? One person can't do nothing, which we know is nonsense. But also with this Virgo, it's more from the point of we actually have to transcend this past conditioning that we have to be perfect and we have to know everything and we have to have the step-by-step process. So I think it's literally like we are at the moment, because Mars is going to become the ruler of the North Node when it's still in a Virgo. I think this is what needs to happen, is this complete transmutation of Virgo archetype. So we have to heal our perception of Virgo archetype of this, I have to be perfect, I have to have it all figured out, I have to have the step-by-step process, where it's just this humbleness of Virgo and this, like Makayla, you said, this open-mindedness and fluidity, like I just learn as I go because things are continuously changing and I need to adjust. And then going back to this South Node in Scorpio and what we bring in with us into the future is the shadow aspect of ourselves. Not a single person on this planet is perfect, because we're perfect when we are in a spirit form. When we came in a human form, we all have a unique crystalline DNA that makes us unique. It makes our purpose unique. Each of us has a special role to play. There is no comparison. There is no like, oh, that person is perfect, I need to look like that or be like that or behave like that. There is no such a thing, because we all here came to fulfill a unique purpose. And with this South Node in Scorpio, it's like what actually came to me is transmute that which makes us feel disempowered into our power. So it's just this shift of transformation and metamorphosis of like actually seeing the aspect of ourselves that previously made us feel disempowered and maybe ashamed. Therefore, it was like this skeleton in a closet, which was like, I feel disempowered, I don't want to look at it. It makes me feel afraid. Like, it's just scary. So it's like, I feel this aspect of which we take into the future with us is like we literally creating that which was making us feel disempowered until this moment, we turning that into our greatest strength. So whatever happened to us in the past that made us feel ashamed, disempowered, afraid, conditioned. So like susceptible to conditioning, because trauma actually creating us this, fragmentation that causes us to be easily controlled. So this Pluto is actually, what is it wanting us to do with this South Node in Scorpio on 0 degrees? It's saying, well, you just turn it into your greatest weapon. So therefore, you know, nobody can control you because you won't be vulnerable there anymore. You transmute it. You will allow that to turn you into the stronger version of yourself, because we even know that if there is the scar, you know, the skin is kind of like different condition, is like stronger, you know, because it helps to hold it together. And scars are beautiful. You know, this is just this between, you know, Virgo and Scorpio, there is a sextile. They support each other, which is saying like, I just have to, you know, heal and integrate this in a way that makes me feel empowered, like shift of perception, Virgo. Fluidity, mutability, continuously learning, adjusting, and not be ashamed to say, okay, I didn't know, I was wrong. You know, with this Martian energy, all this new beginning, nobody was born knowing. I mean, yes, okay, that we can, you know, argue on that our divine self, our higher selves know everything, but in a human experience, whatever we came here to do, we need to learn how to do it. So this is what I feel is this, which we taking into the future, we turn in that which made us feel afraid and disempowered into our strength. And then we won't see it as a vulnerability, as a weak point.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Mars is like the silent healer in the chart, you know, because yeah, right. And it's in that Virgo archetype, which you wouldn't notice anyway, usually, because it's just more humble. Mars is acting humble approach, but it's so true that, you know, we can teach the best things that we can teach is the things that we've had a direct experience with and learned from anyway. And so in essence, like understanding like where you've come from, your mistakes, all of the learning experiences, all of your past history is the greatest wisdom. And in essence, Virgo does hold wisdom through experience, through doing, right? Through doing the task. And it is a crafty, it's like that natural craftsmanship kind of archetype too. And so that Mars in Virgo to me is like that silent, it's like silently like creating the perfect craft of your life, right? And it's just doing its thing, it's trailblazing through, and like all the other planets are going to be catching up to like where it's already gone through.
Yeah, I love that it's in Virgo, where it's kind of like dodging the, you know, moving with however you have to maneuver to get through it, because it's so fluid. I love that.
It's like a path towards self-mastery through, you know, step-by-step process of being humble and open to admit that, oh, I need to improve this. And then, you know, one day we look back and say like, oh my God, I mastered this, I'm competent.
Yeah. So would you guys say it's appropriate like for people to like look at what Mars is doing in your chart right now, see where like those actions are you're being directed towards, and then you can check in with your feeling with where Venus is retrograding and see what's coming up for you. And I would personally, I wouldn't make any major decisions until Venus is, but pay attention, right? And then on the other backdrop too, then you've got this like silent, and Adrienne, that word nebulous was perfect. Nebulous new moon energy that's also manifesting right now and planting a seed. And so there's so many layers to this new moon. So many.
It really is.
Yeah, it's
hard to know what's coming, but something's coming. We can feel it.
It's a really psychic new moon, I feel. Like it's really like, you know, the only way through is just to not get too attached and just, you know, tune in and just let things to unveil when they meant to, you know, like kind of like this high priestess that there is a secret you don't know and you're gonna find out, but not the way you expected.
And
because
it's watery.
like yeah,
it's watery. We're gonna feel it, and we are feeling it. That's why I think it feels so strong. Like you can feel that something is coming. It feels like anxiety in my body, although I don't really have anything to be anxious about, so I'm not sure why it is. But you know, that sensation, something's coming. I don't know what it is, but
because it's the insecurity, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, but there's a sensation. There are sensations that are associated. You know, it's a lot of water.
It's sextile in the Uranus in Taurus.
Yeah, I was just wondering how many unexpected pregnancies are going to come up from this new moon.
But imagine the warriors that are going to be born out of that conception.
you know?
I mean, you know, planting that seed.
Yep.
Yeah, literally. And by the time the seed has grown, it's gonna be Pluto in Aquarius, so it's a good time.
Ooh, it is
Mhm.
definitely an intense, emotional too, quite emotional in Cancer.
Yeah.
A lot of emotions that are coming up.
Makayla, isn't High Priestess ruled by, isn't that archetype of Cancer in a tarot?
Yes.
Yes,
So that makes sense because there is a lot of secret, all these nebulous energies, a lot of that we don't know
it
because there
is
is secrets.
hidden.
Yeah,
Oh,
hidden
really
meaning.
the High Priestess is very secretive and it's hidden.
And
Yep.
it communicates not through words, it's signs and, you know, like this, you know, universe
Yeah,
breadcrumbs. So that's, I don't know why I'm tapping into the High Priestess energy throughout this entire reading. I'm like, there are things we don't know. And like I
Well,
said, like, you know, also what Makayla said, people to pay attention to is like, maybe what are we attached to that maybe is not even who we are, you know, with this Chiron in Aries, like, you know, do I not give myself a permission to be someone new because, you know, between Aries and Cancer, there is a square because I don't feel safe to step into the unknown, even though it makes me feel potentially unhappy.
you know, I'm wondering because you mentioned that High Priestess, and I think Makayla, you said earlier about the sacred feminine energy. You know, I think this might be what is erupting. You know, you can't really see it. It's not like it's something that people are really used to. We can feel it, but it doesn't really have form. Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
And it's for sure a new beginning as we begin to embody that.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, Taurus and Cancer, we're just moving into breaking the pattern of how we're going to embody stuff, and everything's about to shift.
Yeah, and with the Jupiter going through Taurus until May next year, when it's going to conjunct in April, the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus is going to take place. I also feel this is something that we are discovering, you know, the truth about ourselves, the truth about who we really are, not just in this meat form, but who we really are, the truth. And then there might be a moment of reckoning when Jupiter conjuncts Uranus next year, and then the story will be completely rewritten. And I feel all that is getting seeded now.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool.
This might be one of my favorites that we've done. I just, the energy feels really nice. Feels
I
really,
am agreeing.
yeah.
I feel that sometimes, you know, it's like with the exercise, you need to give yourself a break to come back stronger than ever. So that's what I feel.
I mean, I have experienced that sometimes when I like give my, and it's never on purpose, but I'll give a separation from my yoga practice and I'll come back into it, and the flexibility is intense. Like, whoa, how is that like that? You know, like
The next level.
sometimes the body just needs a little rest to be able to take that next step forward.
It's true.
Yeah, and in the Cancer season, it's all about nurture. I need to listen to this advice myself.
Yeah, we're almost done with it. So everybody take that time while we still have it, because the moon's gonna go into Leo and it's gonna be like so I mean the sun.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And in Leo
You'll be
season,
in Leo soon.
yeah, and we're going to have the 8/8 portal in the Leo season, and that's very powerful.
That's right. That's right. So do you ladies have any finishing thoughts on this new moon, or
I
anything else?
just want to say I think it's a magical time. I can't put my finger on what that is, but it feels, you know, something big and something important, and yeah, that's just how it feels to me. I don't have, yeah,
Like
that's all I can say about it.
like I don't want to go into deep rabbit hole about Scorpio archetype here, but I feel that when people kind of detach from the previous ego identities, like it's all fluid, like as we said, that actually it's okay to not be fully fixed on who we are and what we want and where we head in, because it might be, as I said, the case of mistaken identity. It might actually not be who I am. It's just what was projected onto me. So I really feel that at this time in history, where there are so many changes, and it's not like, you know, we obviously want certain level of stability in our life, but not to be too attached to things that don't resonate or that doesn't feel right. Because even when I speak to my clients and I, you know, point them back to themselves, like, I'm sure that you know in your body when something was not right for you, but you did it anyway because that expert said so. So I think that this is the time in history where let's not be too attached to external labels, including what other people say about us, but go actually really to tune in and just to be fluid and flexible with where that is going to take us. Because as we've discussed this entire video, there are a lot of things we don't know and we can't see. So, you know, let's just accept that and be at peace with that, and just, you know, like, get excited like the Aries. There's excitement of new beginning. And I can actually say that a lot of people that come to me for reading, even though the world is falling apart, people are excited. So I'm like, well, if the world was in such a good place, people wouldn't be excited about this unknown change. So many people are actually tapping into that, well, whatever is coming, it can't be worse than what it was. So yeah, let's just be patient and also have a compassion for ourselves and this not knowing.
Yeah, I think it's okay not to know.
Yeah, it's like you're safe in the womb, you know, you're safe in the womb of Mother Earth and in the universe still. Even when things aren't safe, you know, you still have this protection. And at least to me, like, there is this protective force that's behind the moon that's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know best. And so, you know, even like when you like go out and you eat something and you know it's gonna mess up your stomach, right? You know, if you know it's not good for you, then you know this is the time to be discerning about that with that Mars and Virgo. Like you can
Exactly.
help cleanse your soul and your identity, essentially. So just tap in to how you feel, and your feelings and your emotions are gonna direct you into the right place, right? Of where
And I
you
mean, the one trine that is being made to this new moon is the one from Neptune. So and Neptune is in Pisces. So in the high vibration, this definitely is the spiritual protection, our spirit guides, our, you know, ancestors in, you know, in the spirit form, they're always with us. And, you know, they want for us the best, which means that, you know, things have to change because in the past they didn't have the options we do. So it's okay for us to make new choices because they didn't have them. So we're doing it for them too. And I feel really what's so much deeper that we really comprehend, because this is not just about this incarnation. This is about all our previous incarnation, all our ancestors that came before us that made it possible for us to be here. So there is so much depth to this new moon. And this trine from Neptune is really telling us about just trust. You don't need to know everything. Like, everything is always divinely orchestrated. And just every time I'm blown away by the chart and how the planets are so communicating with each other, they're exactly where they need to be to support each other to create this energy. So people thinking that I'm alone and I'm supported, like, just looking at astrology is like, we always are supported because nothing just happens like this. The universe always gives us all this time to adjust to it. And that's also because of all these retrogrades. But anyway, I'm just keep going. But I just want to say that we are really protected and everything is happening exactly as it's meant to.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing.
me too. So ladies, this was amazing as always. I'm so glad we got to do this. And everyone is open for astrology reading. So Adrienne, do you want to, and you're crushing it with your Substack right now, so you want to tell people where they can find you and how they can
Yes, will you put the Substack in the link? I have a new Facebook page, Just Karen Astrology, and Substack, and I'm about to begin my YouTube channel. So you can find me at Just Karen Astrology in all of the places.
Okay. And Mila?
Haven't made a post yet, but soon.
Okay.
A lot of new beginnings for Adrienne.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
I gotta wait till that, you know, moves into the 29 degrees.
Well, I'm just in the same place where I was. My website is still just being built, so you can find all my links on Linktree, and everything is at Moonlight Soul 369. I'm on all the social media, the same the same handle, Moonlight Soul 369, and also my email is moonlightsoul369@gmail.com. So if anybody wants to reach out, that's where they're gonna find me.
And everybody give us a like and subscribe if you have not yet. And thank you. And leave us a comment if you want to talk about what's going on your chart, and we'll comment back for sure. We're all pretty good at responding to everybody on social media. Everybody's links will be down below. And if you want to contact any of us for a reading, we're available. And yeah, we hope you got something from this. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.